Think of like a Steam Deck. Normally what companies with a small volume are trying to do internally for cooling is they pull air in, and then anywhere it's not directly forced through, all the extra air that kind of spews out. So there's actually a hole here cut into the side of this shroud for the blower fan. That's going to let some air come out the side here, which normally is intentional. So on the Steam Deck, as an example, it allowed air to flow over some of the smaller components around the board and get some air over things like SSDs and memory and whatever. So other than that, once the air goes in, it's mostly going straight out the back here through these fin stacks. Really fat heat pipe right in the middle. I'm gonna measure that. It looks like a 10 or a 12 or something, but it's a flat one. Round heat pipes typically perform a little better. Flat heat pipes are very situational, and so you can't really just trade one or the other. It's normally got to be sort of purpose fit. But that's kind of interesting, this massive heat pipe. Hopefully this is going straight across the die somewhere, because if it's not, they're missing out on performance. And let's just go ahead and start looking for, oh, there's a third blower fan here too. That's interesting. So that is kind of actually nice to see. So that's pulling in air here. Again, unfortunately, I would take a Dremel to this backside of this, but it's not mine, so I'm not going to do that. Josh will show up in an hour or so and look at it and say, what the fuck? And I'll say, surprise! I fixed it! Let's take this out. Okay, so that's done. There's a...
Your favorite connector.
Yeah, one of the favorite types. So that fan is an in fan. One of the many meanings of in is eagle. So I don't know if that's what they're using, but we're gonna go with it. This is a model, well, it's really long. You can freeze the frame and look at it. If you ever need to replace this fan, that's the model. It is a 5 volt, 0.5 amp fan. This is good. So they're labeling 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8. I don't know if it's meant to be in order. Nice. Spring retained screw.
For Artanis.
So that looks like it's going to part of the actual heatsink to the silicon. Where's 4? We're gonna move on without 4. So far, these are all the same type of screw, which is also good. So one of the things I really want to look at here is this water cooling solution, where when presumably they have one that actually works for customers. Ours, this, when Josh and team initially hooked it up, so this is, we'll come back to all this, but this is just secured by magnets, which I'm not a big fan of, because not only do we not know how magnets work, also it leaked. And beyond that, the trade-off for going with any kind of water cooling support in a laptop, where it's not always connected, is where they hook up here, so that goes in right there. When these, whatever pipes it's hooking up to, when there's no water, they're just empty. They don't really do a whole lot. So a heat pipe like this would be more effective than an empty water cooling pipe, even if it's made out of copper, and I don't know that it is, but we'll see soon. I'm gonna disconnect this water cooling. I look forward to not remembering what that means later. Just before we start actually poking at the board, we're gonna disconnect the battery, just so it's not live anymore. Okay, so some tape, got more adhesive. Piece of clear tape holding down the fan cable. And then there's this Mylar up here. Okay, so that's connected to that. That says SSD. Thinking that's self-explanatory. Interesting. All right, so they've got the pad pre-applied. No SSD in this slot, obviously. I think we're gonna go with disconnecting the tape from the fan rather than the other way around. Okay, Look at how much more careful I am with it when it's not mine. Some more pre-installed hair. That's good. So this is going to come out. This is another SSD cover.
By the holy light.
So 9100 Pro.
Don't use your head. For Artanis.
Really just want this to come out. So we're gonna have to, this is all connected, so that's gotta come out too. There you go, it's just labeled 9. That's a new one.
Follow the fluttering.
Those are the same, so maybe the non-lettered screws are the same. Is that gonna come up with it? Thinking this might come out. That's gonna have to get disconnected, so we'll do that. Maybe we just take the board out. This probably has to come out too. It's a SK Hynix, and this is 6400 CL52. Oof, 16 gigabyte per stick. We'd probably leave those in there. Oh, all right. Okay, so this is part of one of the VRM cooling solutions, if you call it that. But this was the one that was connected to that smaller blower fan right here. So it's gonna be a little bit of cooling under and over this. It's just a flat plate. There's not a lot of surface area. It shouldn't need a lot. It's just connecting to a couple inductors and MOSFETs right here. So you see power stage, power stage, power stage. And then the probably hotter of things, well, MOSFETs and inductors can run pretty hot, but the chipset's here as well. There is an impression mark on every one of these, so they are making contact. That pad is contacting the back of the memory, which would help. That definitely does something. I mean, PCB is just copper and fiberglass, so that's good. This one apparently does not get any treatment whatsoever, so just get the SSD out. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume the PCB for the motherboard has to come out. So I'm gonna start doing that. Thanks. Get it under the cable. Well, alright. Battery is 6450 milliamp hour, typical 6300 rated, 15.48 volts, 99.9 watt hours, rated 97.6. Charge voltage, limited charge voltage, 17.8.
I'm gonna win. Yeah.
Well, this was an ambitious project. There we go. Okay, wow. Well, that explains why it was so stuck. Wow. All right. Cool. Ooh, and there's another pre-installed hair. So that was an experience. I don't think half of those steps were necessary. So this was really suctioned on there, and it's because they're using thermal putty. Thermal putty is good. It is highly deformable. It has a lot of the characteristics of a pad, and it's kind of a mid-step in terms of viscosity between a pad and a paste. You can think of it that way. So it's a good gap filler. So that is quite the VRM layout. All of the heat's highly concentrated, dead center there. And they've got the fans flanking. The cooling solution, large copper cold plate here. Unsurprisingly, not a vapor chamber, but you wouldn't expect it to be. And then the water is entering here, and it's really not that big of a channel for it to go into. if this were mine, maybe I'll talk to XMG or something, but I kind of want to cut this in half. If they're just running water through this flat plate, that would be awesome. That would be like super effective when it's connected. It'd have a tiny gap they'd want to minimize, which it looks like they've done. This thing's only like less than a millimeter, maybe a millimeter max thickness at the bottom there, not this whole thing, but at the bottom where it connects to the top copper. So anyway, let's take a look at some of the details. I need a calipers. So are they doing a copper fin stack? That would be kind of nice. That is. Or if it's like the ones that have, so that's a copper fin stack that they've just powder or sprayed to turn black in a few places, but where it's exposed externally, although I think the copper looks nice. And then, so it's 13.6 is what that says. So I don't know if that means it's a 10 that was flattened or if they're calling it a 12. Like I said, this is kind of an abnormal way for us to be involved in a product cycle. It's just a fun teardown for me. But, so pretty large heat pipe, 13.6 millimeters where we measured it. That's going to be a standard 6 mil, this one. Yeah, so this larger heat pipe is going straight across the center of, which component is that? The GPU. It's also cutting across most of this piece of silicon here. So let's just clean these off, get an idea of what everything is. So this is a phase change pad that they had on there. You can see the tiles, that's always cool. I like that. So the dices in that silicon where it's one piece and then another, that's an Intel tile for some of the IP for the CPU. So each of those pieces is manufactured separately and then glued together, ironically, because Intel knocked AMD for glued CPUs years ago, but here we are. This is the NVIDIA solution. Maybe Intel soon enough, I've leaked something. And this is the laptop 5090 as they call it. It's just got a die measurement. 25.4 by 16. What's that for area? Let's see. The actual 5080 is 378 millimeters squared. This I've got at 406 from an external measurement. That's like close enough that I'd have to maybe go do the same type measurement for a 5080. But in either case, this is nowhere close to a 5090 die, like a true 5090. Let me pull that up. 5090 die size is 750 millimeters squared, gargantuan by comparison. This, by external measurement, roughly 406. Let's just do one more just to see if I can get any closer to that 5080 desktop. That's like 15.8. So that is, that might bring it in line. 15.8 by 25. That's 25.5. Let's try that. Yeah, so 403. Very close enough that we'd have to take the measurement the same way on a 5080 desktop. So for other stuff going on the board here, the memory modules for the video card, we've got 2 over on this side, another 4, and then 2 more. So we're up to 8 total on this side. This is a 24 gigabyte GPU as accompanied with the memory. So I need to check maybe if there's some on the other side. It is forbidden to disassemble privately to avoid electrical failure. Okay. I'm not privately disassembling it. I'm publicly disassembling it. So this is this is really interesting. This is like a bridge for the, so they've split the motherboard. Guessing this is a very specific torque spec based on the markings here. What? I was expecting like 1 million pins. What the hell is that? So, Unimicron Neoconics. Motherboard, that way, GPU, it's like a junction. So I mean, it's a PCB. I'm guessing the sensitive area is underneath it. I don't know if it's gonna be like solder balls or what. That I really don't actually want to take off, but it would come up easily. fragile underneath there, from what I'm feeling. I personally really don't want to take this off.